Hi, everyone, and welcome to this Wellesley Career Education workshop on writing cover letters. In this workshop, we'll be talking through the purpose of a cover letter and how it differs from your resume, the general format that works best for a cover letter, and some strategies for writing cover letters, especially if you haven't done them before. We'll end with a list of steps you can take to move forward with your own cover letters and job or internship applications. Okay, so what is a cover letter and why do you need one? The purpose of the cover letter is to show the employer that you are a good fit for their organization and the role. Think about your cover letter as a way to connect the dots between your resume and the job description, linking them together in a perfect fit. Remember that from the employer's point of view, they are concerned with finding a candidate who will really fit what they need for this particular role. So your goal in the cover letter is to convey that fit. This means the cover letter is not just about you. A common mistake in cover letters is to use the whole letter to explain your background and what you hope to gain from a particular experience. This is good information to include, but an effective cover letter is a balance between talking about you and talking about the employer. The cover letter needs to show that you understand the role and what the employer needs, and then how you fit into that need on the basis of your skills and past experience. So the letter will be about both you and about the job to show clearly how the two fit together. In the part of the cover letter that's about you, don't just summarize your resume. The cover letter should go beyond your resume to share the reasons you're interested in this job and this organization, to express your enthusiasm for the role, and to explain your qualifications using specific examples, all of which goes beyond what's communicated in a resume. So these are the two main elements of a cover letter's purpose: show why you are a good fit for the role and convey your interest and enthusiasm for the position. As we discussed on the previous slide, in order to give a strong sense for why you'll be a good fit for this role, you need to provide specific examples from your skills, qualifications, or past experience. For example, if you are applying for an internship that requires strong Microsoft Excel skills, briefly describe other positions or projects in which you've used Excel to a high level, perhaps naming specific functions you've mastered. Or when applying to a summer job working with young children, you might describe times in the past when you've done similar work, courses you've taken that have prepared you for this role, or times you've demonstrated patience, clear communication, creativity, and other transferable skills. And remember that the person reading your cover letter really wants to get a sense that you're genuinely interested in this role, and that if hired, you'll be committed and reliable. So explain why you're interested, what you like about this job description and this organization, and why this job feels like a good fit for you at this time. If you're stuck on how to explain this, then try talking it through with a friend or with your college career mentor. If someone were to ask you, why do you really want this job? What would your answer be? How would you explain it to them? Consider those themes and how to best articulate them to a potential employer. In order to articulate how and why you are a good fit for an organization and a particular role, you need to have a clear understanding of both the organization and the role within it. This means you need to do your research. It's often tempting to just sit down and quickly write a few cover letters so you can send out lots of applications. But the best cover letters are the ones that are built on a strong understanding of the company and the role. Also, recruiters can tell who has taken the time to do their research and who has not. A cover letter that is quickly written and vague about the details is not likely to get you an interview. When researching, the best place to start is the job description. Job descriptions typically begin with an overview of the organization. This gives you a sense of their missions, priorities, and some of their structure, along with how this particular role fits into that structure. Job descriptions then go on to list the primary responsibilities for this role, like working with a team to develop marketing strategy, or conducting qualitative research under the supervision of a principal investigator. Finally, the job description will list the specific skills or qualifications they are seeking for a candidate in this role. They may include things like a particular degree or certification and specific technical knowledge or computer skills, alongside broad skills like oral communication or critical thinking. Let's take a look at this job description as an example. You'll see they have sections including an overview of the role, the responsibility of the person in this role, and the requirements for the person they'd like to hire. Pause the presentation here and take a moment to read through this job description carefully, considering the questions posed on the side of the screen. Some things that stand out here to me are that they repeatedly describe their organization as having a fast-paced, dynamic work environment. Their ideal candidate is someone self-motivated and enthusiastic, who has social media knowledge and experience, and is competent with Microsoft Office. In addition to marketing on social media, the person in this role will work as part of a team to plan events and strategy, and also will perform some general administrative tasks. You don't need to meet all of these qualifications in order to apply, and you don't need to address each of them individually in a cover letter. But now you're able to decide which aspects of your experience you want to highlight. Maybe past experience planning an event as part of a team, or your enthusiasm for the position, or your familiarity with multiple social media platforms. These qualifications, or others you identify as relevant, are what you can focus on throughout the cover letter, providing specific examples of each to show that you're a great fit for exactly what this organization is seeking. In addition to reading the job description carefully to highlight keywords and phrases, you'll want to research the organization further. Look at their website and their LinkedIn page to see how they present themselves. Google the organization. Have they been in the news lately? What types of stories come up? It is sometimes appropriate to refer to recent news items in a cover letter, for example, if a company has recently launched a new product, received a prestigious grant, or announced a new program. You can comment on that, expressing your understanding of the industry and enthusiasm to be a part of this work. You can also use Glassdoor.com to read reviews and salary information posted by anonymous, current, or previous employees. All of the information you can pull together through this research will help you to get a fuller picture of the organization you might want to work for, so that you can be more informed as you compose your cover letter and potentially as you prepare for an interview. After you've done this research and learned all you can about the organization itself and about the role you're applying for, then you're ready to identify the most important skills or qualifications you want to highlight in your cover letter. You can feel confident that what you're choosing to highlight then will be relevant to them and that you'll be able to convey a sense of fit for the position. Now that you've got a handle on the purposes of a cover letter and how to do your research about an organization and a position, let's talk about how to actually write the letter, starting with formatting. Cover letters are typically written in the format of a standard business letter. This means one page, single-spaced, no indentation, spacing between paragraphs, and a header at the top, including your contact information and the date. You can see on this slide the order in which the main elements appear: header, address, date, salutation, introduction, body, conclusion, signature. We'll talk more about what to include in the letter itself, but I'd like to take a moment now to address the salutation. It's always best to address your cover letter to a specific individual. Do your homework to identify who the hiring manager or contact person is for this position. Sometimes it's listed right in the job description. This tends to be true for jobs posted on Handshake and many other sites. If you really can't find the name of the person who will be receiving your letter, you may use "to whom it may concern" as a backup. After you've written your header, date, and salutation, you're ready to organize the body of your letter. For a cover letter, it's best to use a somewhat standardized format, which includes an introduction, 2 to 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Let's start with a look at the introduction. A cover letter introduction is fairly short, typically between 4 and 8 sentences. And you'll want to use that space effectively to introduce yourself, state the role, express your interest, and articulate your thesis. You need to introduce yourself with something like, "I am a rising senior at Wellesley College, majoring in history," and clearly identify which role you're applying for. Organizations are often hiring for multiple roles at the same time, so it's important to make sure you've identified this clearly at the start of your letter to avoid any confusion. You also want to use a few sentences in your introduction to briefly express your interest in the position and to lay out your thesis, just like you would in an academic paper. In the case of a cover letter, the thesis is a concise statement of why you are a good fit for this position, or what value you can add to the organization and role, often including the 2 to 3 top skills or qualifications you really want to highlight. From your research, you already know the skills and qualifications the employer is seeking for this position. Which of your own skills are relevant for this role, and do you have some examples or evidence to support them? For example, if you consider yourself to be a good writer or to have strong research skills, can you think of examples to illustrate those skills? When deciding what to highlight in your thesis statement, you'll want to be sure you select strengths or skills that you can talk about using specific examples. If you're having trouble identifying or articulating your strengths or skills, or coming up with examples to support them, schedule an appointment with your college career mentor, and we'll be happy to talk it through with you. Once you've identified a few areas of overlap between what the role requires and what you have to offer, you are ready to compose your thesis statement. Here we've provided a very general structure for this statement. X, Y, and Z make me a strong fit for this role. Yours doesn't have to look exactly like this. Essentially, you want to lay out the handful of specific qualifications that you believe make you a good fit, and which the rest of your cover letter will then reinforce and illustrate using examples. Here are some sample thesis statements for the introduction of a cover letter. My relevant coursework, strong quantitative skills, and experience working as a psychology research assistant have prepared me to meet the demands of this role. Or, my past experiences have provided me with a detailed knowledge of financial institutions and have confirmed my interest in pursuing a career in banking. I believe that my strong work ethic, attention to detail, and knowledge of the industry would make me a good fit for this position. For these examples, we assume that the skills they've highlighted, like knowledge of the finance industry or quantitative skills, are things that were expressed in the job description. So these thesis statements not only list the candidate's skills, but do so in a way that ties their background directly to what is needed in the role. Remember that the main goal of your cover letter is to show why you are a good fit for the position, and your introduction and thesis statement should illustrate that. From the introduction, you'll move into the body of your letter. You've already researched the role and the company. You have a really clear idea of what they're looking for and which of your own skills and past experiences you're going to highlight. The 2 to 3 body paragraphs are where you will show exactly why you're a great fit for this position, using those specific examples from your past experience. Some people choose to break this up so that they use one paragraph to describe what they know about the employer and/or the role, highlighting what really interests them in this position. They then use a separate paragraph to articulate their skills and experiences that make them a good fit for the role. Another approach is to blend all of this information about the employer and your background together, volleying back and forth between what you know about the employer and how your background is a good fit. For example, I understand from the job description that self-direction and being proactive to move new projects forward are important skills for the person in this role. These are attributes I recently demonstrated while completing an independent study, in which I developed and executed my own research plan and deadlines, accomplishing the project ahead of schedule with only light supervision. Either of these structures, discussing the employer and your background either together or separately, is fine, and you can take whichever approach feels more natural to your writing style. The important thing is to ensure that overall your cover letter discusses both the role and your background, ultimately conveying that sense of fit and why you can provide what they are looking for. As you now know, each time you submit a cover letter, you will go through some version of this research process. Every cover letter must be tailored to the specific position and organization. Remember that many recruiters read hundreds of resumes and cover letters in the course of a week. They can easily spot the form or Mad Lib cover letters, the ones where candidates have sent essentially the same exact letter to lots of job postings, just updating a few small details here and there. That never makes a good impression. If you've done the right research, you should understand what makes this position and organization unique and be able to explain why you are the right fit for this role at this organization. Ask yourself what story you want to tell to the employer about yourself and use your materials to paint that picture. After 2 or 3 body paragraphs, you'll finish up by writing a brief conclusion for your cover letter. Like the introduction, the conclusion is brief, serving to remind your reader of why you're a good fit for the position. You also want to take this time to express your appreciation for their consideration of your candidacy and let them know that you look forward to further discussion. You can use phrases like, I look forward to further discussing my skills and qualifications with you, or I welcome the opportunity to talk with you further. You provided your contact information in the header. Now is the time to proofread that header carefully one more time to make sure it includes your email address and phone number so they can be in touch with you to follow up. The closing of your cover letter should typically use sincerely or something of similar formality. If it's possible to include your written signature in addition to your typed name, then it's a good idea to do so. So there you have it. This is the overall format and content of your letter, all of which should fit on one single page. Remember to single space your letter and to use standard margins and a font size of at least 10 and preferably 12. Also, be sure to proofread your letter very carefully. Nothing better guarantees that an application will end up in the discard pile than typos throughout a cover letter. I recommend reading your letter out loud, either to yourself or to someone else, as a really effective way to make sure it sounds the way you want it to sound, and to catch any little writing errors that may be in there. Writing cover letters is its own skill, and like anything else, it takes some time and practice to feel confident with it. Hopefully, this has given you a good introduction to the purpose, format, and content of cover letters so you can get started writing your own. You can also check out our cover letter guidelines and samples online for more tips to help you get started and refine your drafts. You'll also find several sample cover letters on that page, all of which illustrate the type of balance you want to strive for in your cover letters, describing not only your background, but the ways in which your background specifically matches up with what will be required of you in a particular position. Read through those samples carefully until you really get a feeling for how a cover letter is likely to sound. And of course, please make an appointment with your college career mentor and/or career community advisor to review your outlines and drafts, or for help with those final touches to make sure your cover letter is ready to go.